everyone. Thank you for joining us. Earlier this year, my office received a letter from a man in Dutchess County. He said his community is considered a food desert and that, quote, having a car is an absolute must. Unfortunately, not all residents have access to a car or other transportation to get to these markets or are seniors who are hesitant to drive to basically do shopping, end of quote. It's a story I've heard over and over again from constituents across New York. An estimated 2 million New Yorkers live in these so-called food deserts, which are areas with few or no options to shop for affordable, healthy foods. Often, people in these areas have to travel for miles just to buy basic food necessities like fresh fruit and vegetables. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, nearly a quarter of all Americans live in food deserts, which make food insecurity worse and jeopardize their residents' health. As a result, people living in food deserts may be at a higher risk of diet-related conditions like diabetes, obesity, and heart disease, which puts further strain on our healthcare system. At a time when food prices are already too high for many American families, the persistent presence of food deserts is a problem that affects all of us. The Healthy Food Financing Initiative, or HFFI, is an important resource that helps address the existence of these food deserts. It's a federal program that was authorized in the 2014 Farm Bill, and it provides grants and loans to fresh food retailers and grocery stores. It's deeply effective and popular because it helps so many people improve their nutrition and get access to the food they need in underserved areas. But it has been consistently oversubscribed and underfunded. This week, I'm reintroducing legislation to make sure this vital program continues to get the funding it needs. My Healthy Food Financing Initiative Reauthorization Act would make sure HFFI funding becomes mandatory, and over time, it would boost the yearly amount of $25 million to $50 million. HFFI provides loan and grant financing to attract grocery stores and other fresh food retailers to underserved urban, suburban, and rural areas. This program also helps renovate and expand existing stores so they can provide the healthy food communities that they want and they need. Organizations can use these grants to help pay for things like expanding cold storage or developing food incubator kitchens or creating more mobile markets. The HFFI program can also provide technical assistance like market analysis, financial modeling, or feasibility studies. In a country as rich and abundant as ours, no one should have to struggle to buy food. At a time when Republicans are trying to kick people off of SNAP and the Trump administration has requested a total of $0 for the HFFI program this year, I'm fighting to make sure New Yorkers can get access to the nutritious foods they need to be healthy. I want to thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Good morning, Senator. This is Rachel Knapp, the Washington, D.C. correspondent for WENY News down in the Southern Tier.
Yep.
I am just wondering, how can this work as many Republicans are trying to cut back on government spending? Thank you.
So unfortunately, they're not cutting back on government spending. They are cutting vital programs like this one so they can give tax benefits to billionaires and millionaires. So they are making a conscious choice to not feed families, not feed hungry kids, not feed our seniors, so they can give a tax giveaway worth hundreds of millions of dollars to the wealthiest Americans. In fact, these tax cuts will add $3 trillion to the debt. So unfortunately, they're making bad choices. They are not cutting spending.
Thank you. And just real quick, and maybe your office might be able to provide this information for these grants. Do you know how much New York has been able to use these grants in total over the past couple of years?
Well, the whole program has been authorized at $25 million. And what percentage do we get of that? Yeah, we'll get a breakdown of who got money over the last few years and send it to everybody on the call.
Perfect, thank you. And I do have an off topic, but I'll wait.
Okay, any more on topics?
Senator, this is Jessica Kane from WRVO. Do you have bipartisan support for this initiative? Have you heard from any Republicans that support this?
Not yet. And so one of the reasons why we're doing a press conference on it is because we want to raise the issue so New Yorkers can know about it, talk to their Republican House members, try to create an awareness that food deserts are real and that if we don't fund these types of programs, families have to drive long distances or just eat unhealthily. So we're trying to raise the awareness by doing this press conference so that maybe we can attract some Republican support.
Thank you.
Other topics, other issues?
Good morning, Senator. Michael Loss from Buffalo, Toronto Public Media, NPR. Last month, we had the tragic 3-year anniversary of the top shooting on Jefferson Avenue on the east side of Buffalo. The assailant in that instance traveled multiple counties to go to one of the most disadvantaged food deserts in the state. To this day, the east side of Buffalo still only has one grocery store that tops after it reopened. The biggest concern for grocery chains has been heads and beds. How does this money incentivize new grocery stores in places like the east side of Buffalo, where the biggest reason there is still only that Tops location is due to population and bottom line funding, not lack of funds?
Can you read that that last piece? You said it's because of bottom line. What?
Yes, so the reason why there's still one grocery store
Yeah.
location on the east side of Buffalo is more to do with population and heads and beds. How will this money incentivize new places in those places like the east side of Buffalo?
I don't think that's true. I don't think it's a population issue. I think it's a issue of whether they will make enough money. So I've talked to a couple of grocery store chains, and their analysis is it's not economic, meaning they won't make enough money because the east side of Buffalo is lower income. They're not going to spend as much on high dollar items. And so there's a lack of interest to put in another grocery store because of economics. So we've been working with a not-for-profit called Go Green Buffalo to see if they'd be willing to sort of meet the need. And we've seen the benefit of some of these mobile markets, mobile food banks, not-for-profits that we can get refrigeration put in so that they can actually serve the area better. So we're trying to find alternative means because the large chains, when I spoke to them over the last several years, they've just said they can't make enough money.
Thank
And
you.
and the other thing, the reason why this bill is so important, let's just say a major chain will only make, a 2% profit and they're used to making a 7% profit. If you can make the investment to make it more cost efficient, they would make a higher profit. And so that's why this program could make a difference because it can make up the difference in a lower income area so that a company could come in and still make it worth their while to meet the needs of that community.
Hi, Senator. Alex Colt from the Watertown Daily Times here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I am just curious about smaller grocery stores, independent grocery stores, and almost convenience store size. Those are really the common community grocery stores in a lot of rural North Country New York.
Yep.
And I'm curious if they benefit from this program as well. Can you speak to their
Yep.
involvement or
They
their
can
benefit?
apply for the same funding. So if they need to expand their refrigeration service, or they need to create a farmer's market on Saturday, or they need to do something to be able to carry more fruits and vegetables, more milk, more dairy, more fresh meats, they can apply for the same kind of money. And so we that is a strategy, especially in places where corner stores are, where people get their food, whether it's rural New York or in inner city New York. We want to at least give resources to those providers so they can provide more nutritious food at an affordable price.
Thank you.
Senator, I have an off topic, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
I was wondering if you could give your reaction to the political violence in Minnesota, and in light of Senator Lee's inflammatory comments, do you worry about your own personal safety?
So I am deeply disturbed by the violence in Minnesota. These elected leaders were targeted. They were targeted by an assassin who had multiple people identified and visited multiple homes that night. And the people who escaped assassination just didn't happen to be home. So this type of political violence has no place in the United States, no place in our communities. And one of the reasons why we need to just, again, reduce the heat, reduce the rhetoric, reduce the hate. We need the country to come back together again. We need communities to understand one another. We need people to listen more. And so I'm going to do everything I can to lower the temperature in our state and in our country. I feel very safe, and I feel that public service is a calling, but nobody should fear for their lives doing a public service job. And I want to make sure that we have protection for public servants from the local level straight up to the most senior levels.
Thank you.
Senator Rachel again with WENY News for an off topic real quick. Just wanted to get your thoughts on the situation in Iran. How involved should we be in this conflict, especially with the president tweeting a couple of things? Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's really important that we engage diplomatically. I thought the Iran deal that we signed about a decade ago was valuable because it allowed us to have intel about location of military bases, location of centrifuges, location of production facilities, and it allowed us to protect the United States should Iran decide to become nuclearized from a military perspective. And unfortunately, President Trump tore up that agreement. Iran started building centrifuges again, started refining uranium, stockpiled uranium, had enough for weapons or close to having enough for weapons. And I just hope that President Trump will continue to pursue negotiations and pursue diplomacy. I do not think getting into a world war is wise or appropriate. And I support Israel's right to defend itself 1,000%. And I think the best way to defend Israel is for Israel to be engaging diplomatically. I think it's strategically the best solution, not starting a war or not retaliating for Iran's previous issuing of over 300 missiles aimed towards Israel.
Thank you. And there's just this one question about war powers. When should Congress step in and get involved?
Well, we have the right to declare war. The president only has the right to respond in an exigent circumstance, and then he has to come to Congress to get our permission because war has to be declared through Congress. So Congress stands ready to do the work and the analysis of making an assessment. The president should not be subverting Congress's authority on this, and this will be something that will be very aggressively debated on a bipartisan basis.
Thank you.